The settlement alarms hadn't stopped wailing for 3 days. Leo pressed his forehead against the reinforced glass of his apartment window, watching the chaos unfold in New Terraform Colony's central plaza. Colonists scrambled like disturbed ants, hauling whatever possessions they could carry toward the evacuation shuttles. The sky above burned orange, not from the twin suns of Kepler 442b, but from the orbital bombardment that had turned the northern sector into a crater-pocked wasteland. The Jaru were coming. More specifically, she was coming. Every human in the galaxy knew the name whispered in terror across 100 worlds. Bella, the scourge of the Terran front, the Crimson Shadow, a Jaru warrior who had single-handedly decimated 3 human military outposts, leaving nothing but ash and the haunting symbol of her clan burned into the ground. Leo had seen the footage. Everyone had. The way she moved through human defenses like a ghost made of blades and fury, her 4 arms wielding weapons that seemed to sing with death. The Jaru were already terrifying. 8-foot-tall predators with chitinous armor naturally grown into their flesh, eyes that glowed like molten gold, and a warrior culture that made ancient Sparta look like a book club. But Bella was something else entirely, a legend, a nightmare. And according to colony intelligence, she was here, on this planet, heading toward the civilian sectors. Leo's hands trembled as he checked his pistol for the 4th time. 15 rounds, standard plasma cells, utterly useless against Jaru armor, but it made him feel slightly less helpless. His transport ticket sat on the table, shuttle departure in 40 minutes. He should be packing, running, surviving. Instead, he stood frozen, staring at the empty streets below. The evacuation had cleared his building an hour ago. The silence was suffocating. Leo lived alone in this corner apartment, having moved to the colony as a xenobiology researcher 6 months prior. His work studying Kepler's indigenous microorganisms seemed laughably insignificant now. Knock, knock, knock. Leo's heart stopped. Nobody knocked anymore. Not with comlinks, not with the building evacuated, not with. Knock, knock, knock. Steady, patient, almost polite. His pistol felt like a child's toy in his shaking grip as he approached the door. The security panel showed nothing, its cameras either malfunctioning or deliberately disabled. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, to do anything but open that door. He opened it anyway. Bella stood in his doorway. She was somehow more terrifying in person. The vids didn't capture the sheer presence of her, the way she seemed to absorb light, the faint shimmer of her crimson armor plates, the 4 arms held in a posture that could shift to combat in a microsecond. Her eyes, those burning gold eyes, fixed on him with an intensity that made him feel transparent. Leo raised his pistol with both hands, knowing it was futile. I'm armed. I can see that. Her voice was surprisingly soft, a melodic rumble that resonated in his chest. She spoke flawless standard English, though her mandibles clicked slightly between words. May I come in? Of all the things Leo expected, immediate death, interrogation, capture, a polite request for entry wasn't among them. Why? The word escaped before he could think better of it. Because what I have to say shouldn't be said in a hallway. Bella's head tilted, a distinctly alien gesture, and because I'm very tired, Leo Restrepo. She knew his name. Of course she did. Leo stepped back mechanically, and the galaxy's most feared warrior entered his modest apartment, ducking slightly to clear the human-sized doorframe. She moved to his window, all 4 arms folding in a complex gesture he didn't recognize. For a long moment, she simply stared at the burning horizon. You're not evacuating, she observed. I missed my window, Leo lied. The truth, that some self-destructive part of him wanted to understand what was happening, wanted answers even if they killed him, seemed too complicated. No, you didn't, you chose to stay. Bella turned, and Leo saw something in those alien eyes he never expected, exhaustion. Your shuttle doesn't leave for 37 minutes. You could still make it. Are you going to kill me? No, the answer was immediate, definitive. I'm going to ask you for help. Leo's laugh was borderline hysterical. Help? You're asking me for help? You've destroyed 3 military installations. Yes. Bella's voice hardened. Installations that were experimenting on captured Jaru civilians, that were dissecting children to understand our biology, that were developing bioweapons specifically designed to target our genetic markers. The words hit Leo like a physical blow. That's impossible. The Terran Alliance doesn't. Doesn't what? Commit war crimes. Bella's mandibles spread in what might have been a bitter smile. Every species says that about themselves, until the evidence becomes undeniable. She reached into a compartment in her armor and produced a data chip, setting it gently on his table. Everything is there. Classified files I extracted, video evidence, testimonies, the truth your government doesn't want you to know. Leo stared at the chip like it might explode. Why me? Why bring this to a random civilian? Because you're not random. Bella moved closer and Leo forced himself not to retreat. Your Dr. Leo Restrepo, xenobiology specialist, published 3 papers on ethical frameworks for studying non-human intelligence. You argued against invasive research methods. You believe in the sanctity of sentient life, regardless of origin. You read my papers. I read everything about this colony before I came here. She paused. I've been reading human academic work for 2 years, trying to understand your species, trying to find evidence that not all of you are like the ones who hurt my people. The vulnerability in her voice was startling. This was Bella, the scourge, the shadow, the terror of the frontier, and she sounded almost hopeful. Those military outposts, Leo said slowly, you were rescuing prisoners. Yes. 43 Jaru civilians across all 3 facilities. Most were children taken during border raids. Your military claimed they were combatants. Her eyes dimmed. 11 didn't survive the experiments. The others, they'll never be the same. Leo's legs felt weak. He sat heavily in his desk chair. If this is true. It is. Then why hasn't this come out? Why hasn't the Jaru conquered presented evidence to the Galactic Council? Bella's laugh was sharp and humorless. Because your alliance controls the information networks. Because the Council is too afraid of human military power to intervene. Because my own conquered is divided. Half want total war, half want to pretend it isn't happening to avoid genocide. She moved to stand directly in front of him, and Leo saw the weight she carried in every movement. This wasn't just a warrior. This was someone fighting a war on multiple fronts, including against her own people's despair. I'm not asking you to take my word for it, Bella said. I'm asking you to look at the evidence, to verify it with your scientific training, and if you find it credible, she paused, to share it widely, make it impossible to ignore. They'll call it propaganda, Jaru manipulation. Probably, but you're human, a respected researcher. Your voice carries weight mine never could. Bella's 4 hands clasped together in a gesture of supplication alien to her species but clearly learned for this moment. I've spent 3 years fighting, killing, destroying, and nothing has changed. Maybe truth where violence failed will succeed. Leo looked at the data chip, then at the most dangerous being he'd ever met. You're taking an enormous risk coming here. If I report you, then I'll die and nothing changes. Bella's acceptance was matter of fact. But I don't think you will. I think you became a scientist because you wanted to understand, to learn, to build bridges between different forms of life. She was right, and they both knew it. I'll look at the data, Leo said finally. I'll verify everything I can, if it's legitimate. You'll do what you think is right, Bella finished. That's all I'm asking. She moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, Dr. Restrepo, I'm sorry. Sorry for the fear I've caused civilians like you. Sorry that my people and yours are on this path. Sorry that the galaxy has to be this way. Bella, Leo called as she reached the threshold. She turned. Why do they call you the Crimson Shadow? Her mandibles shifted in what he was learning to recognize as sadness. Because I only attack at dusk when the red sun sets. I wanted my enemies to see me coming, to know that what was happening was the consequence of their choices, not random violence. She paused. I wanted them to have the chance to surrender that they never gave my people. Then she was gone, moving with that impossible grace back into the burning evening. Leo sat alone in his apartment, the evacuation alarm still wailing, and picked up the data chip with shaking hands. 32 minutes until his shuttle departed. He plugged the chip into his terminal and began to read. 3 hours later, Leo missed his evacuation shuttle, but he sent 87 encrypted files to every major independent news network in human space, along with a detailed analysis confirming their authenticity. The truth, it turned out, was the most dangerous weapon of all. And sometimes, the monsters we fear are just people trying desperately to be heard.